What's up guys, welcome to your 5th WordPress tutorial. And today what we're going to be working on is widgets and sidebars. And widgets are basically plugins that are used in WordPress. They're uploaded and created by any developers around the world. There's thousands of them up there on the WordPress site. And most of them are free for you to download and use on your site. And they're easy to install, and it's basically an easy way to do complicated things on your site. Now, to start off, we're not going to be creating any widgets, we're just going to be using ones that are already there, but we're going to be registering the sidebars that host the widgets or show the widgets. So to start off, we're going to go to our text editor, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to save that file as sidebar.php. Then we're going to create another new file, and we're going to save that file as functions.php. And these are another two files that WordPress has a record of and can read straight away from once you've installed your theme. And they have to be called sidebar.php and functions.php. But first we're going to do a bit of maintenance on our index file. So I'm going to create a div here with a class called wrapper. I'm going to create a div inside of it with a class called main. I'm going to add all that content that we created in the third tutorial into the main div. And then I'm going to close off those divs. And inside that wrapper, under the main div, I'm going to import our sidebar using the same functions we were using before, only this time it's called getSidebar. Now in this sidebar.php file, I'm going to create an unordered list and give it a class of sidebar. I'm going to close off that unordered list. Now that unordered list is what's going to contain, or it's the container for your widgets. So each widget inside of that will be a list item. So now in our functions file, and your functions file is what you'll use for your WordPress theme to register sidebars, register menus, register WordPress admin options, things like that. And we'll be using this file quite a lot. So we'll just open our PHP tags inside of it. Give ourselves a bit of space. So now inside of this, all we're going to do is register our sidebar. And to do that, we're going to use the following code. We're going to use the register sidebar function, and we're going to pass an array into that function, and just neatly align it. Inside that array, we're going to give the sidebar a name, which will be main sidebar. We're going to give it an ID, which will be sidebar widget, sorry. We're going to set the HTML that comes before the widget to be a list item, as we said before. We're going to set the HTML that comes after the widget to be the closing of that list item. Now each widget has a title that you can set in the WordPress backend, and we're going to set the HTML that comes before each of those titles to be a H2 tag. I just want to align that. And again, after the title of each widget, we're going to set the HTML syntax to be the closing of that H2 tag. And that's all we have to do in that function.php file to register a sidebar. And now we can call that sidebar from our sidebar.php file. Now, so inside of here, we add the following code. We add an if statement, and if no function exists called dynamic sidebar, and or there is no dynamic sidebar with the name main sidebar, which again is the name we just used in that functions.php file. So if there is no dynamic sidebar, or if there's no dynamic sidebar with the name main sidebar, and then we just close off that if statement using the end if tag, and that should work fine for sidebar.php. And all we've done there is call the sidebar that we've registered here, which means we can use it in our WordPress backend. So now we go to our style.css, and because we have just edited that index file, I'm going to add a few more styles now. And under this, I'm just going to add one more, actually no, I'm just going to add a line break, and we'll style that in here. So I'm going to get rid of the styles we created in the third tutorial for post. I'm going to add the styles for the wrapper we created. I'm going to give it a width of 960 pixels and a margin of 0 and auto, just to make it show up in the middle of the page, or in the center of the page. I'm going to set the styles for the main we created, which hosts all the left content. I'm going to give that a width of 600 pixels. I'm going to float it left, and I'm going to give it a margin right of 60 pixels, just to separate it a bit from the sidebar. And as we're talking about the sidebar, I'm going to give that a few styles. I'm going to give that a style of width 300 pixels, float left, and list style. Because the sidebar is a list, or the sidebar is an unordered list, I'm going to give a list style of none, so we don't see any bullet points beside each widget. And I'm going to make sure there's no padding on it so as it aligns correctly. And for that line break that we just added in there at the bottom, I'm just going to use that to clear the two floated elements above it. So now that we've all that done, we're going to go to our site. Now that's the site before we made any changes. That's the theme that we created from the fourth tutorial. Now I'm going to go to the back end. I'm going to go into appearance and widgets. And here we see our main sidebar. Now that's just one of the basic or default widgets WordPress added. I'm going to add in our archives widget. I'm going to give it a title of our first widget, and I'll set show post counts. And this widget just shows you the amount of posts from each month that you posted. So we'll save that, and we'll go back to our site, and hopefully it should work now. And there you have it. We've now got our site showing our posts, or the loop on the left here. We still have our footer coming up at the bottom, and now we have our widgets, our sidebar on the right, and it's showing our widget. And because we had our first post when we created the WordPress site, and then we added in a second one, we have March 2012 and 2, and this is our archives widget. And you can add as many widgets as you want. All you have to do is go into the back end here and add in any of them as you feel. Just drag and drop and edit the text as you feel free. So guys, that was the fifth tutorial. We've learned a bit about widgets here and sidebars, and we'll be doing going into these in more detail again further into the series. So please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.